Just start in a comfortable seated position this morning. I don't know why I've got socks on, but I don't need them on, so good fun. So we are continuing our journey through the myths of yoga and some of my personal favourites. I won't lie, this is a very biased list. So last time we did Ganesha, today we're doing Saraswati, and they just happen to be two of my favourites. And realistically, Saraswati doesn't have too much to do with yoga itself. She doesn't have poses named after her. She doesn't really have much named after her or many stories, but she's kind of this ever-present presence, ever-present being. So I want to tell you a little bit about Saraswati. So have a little bit of a wiggle, a little bit of a fidget, breathe length up through the spine and soften the slope of your shoulders as you gently close your eyes and really tap into your breath. Feeling that ebb and flow, that rise and fall, because Saraswati means she who flows with wisdom. She who flows with wisdom. Well, Saraswati is the goddess of language and scripture, poetry and prose, music, dance, and art. So she's a goddess of many talents, but particularly she's gifted with language and with the spoken word. And yoga as a tradition has been passed down from teacher to student, mainly through the practice of language, understanding esoteric concepts and bringing them into our reality. Yoga is really a tool for understanding how we are, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's these parts of yoga, these big, broad, sweeping parts of yoga, that I feel Saraswati kind of governs. She's named after a river that was very, very free-flowing and holy during the Indus Valley civilization. So we're talking about realistically anything from 2500 to 1800 BCE, so 5,000 years ago. And at this time in history, we look at the kind of neighboring civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt, and really these interconnected city-states are starting to rise. We as humanity are living within cities instead of nomadic tribal ways of living that we've done for the centuries previous. And at this time, everything is becoming really accessible for us. We're living in homes, we're living with communities, we're having jobs, we're farming, and our basic needs are being met. And when our basic needs are met, community and the arts begin to thrive. So the Saraswati River doesn't just flow physically at this time for hydration and cleanliness, it also flows metaphorically as we start to explore with language and poetry, music, dance and art and scripture, writing thoughts down. And this is when we see the rise of Saraswati as a goddess. So she flows both physically and metaphorically. When that river dried up, the migration of this civilization moved across to the Gangetic plain, so more in central northern India than closer to kind of the Pakistan border, even into what is modern day Pakistan. That border wouldn't have existed then. But we're really looking at that migration of the civilization, and even though the river dried up, that flow of Saraswati still stayed within the civilization, that prowess of the spoken word. So we're really going to use that as our inspiration for our practice today. So as you find yourself in a comfortable seated position, just start to feel that little ebb and flow through the body. Take a moment to remind yourself that you are never 100% still, even in your deepest moments of sleep You are never completely still. So just start finding a little bit of a sway from side to side. Flowing physically allows a flow through the rest of the body as well. Mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, we start to find an effortlessness to that state of flow. So really conjuring that within the body and breathing the arms all the way up and out to shoulder height. Allow a little bit of buoyancy to come into the arms. Imagine you're sat in a really shallow bit of crystal clear water, whether that's the ocean, a lake, or a river. And that water is just holding your arms up, gently bobbing and feeling a little more weightless than you did just a few moments ago. Feeling that lightness and lift of the breath within you, fueling that state of flow. Now we're going to lean over into that right hand, let the left arm rise all the way up over the head and bring yourself into a huge side body stretch and keep that bob going. Just a little rise, a little dip. Just feeling that gentle flow in the body. Then start to turn your chest towards your knee. Circle your hands all the way out and around in front of you. And then lift and twist to the other side. So that right hand comes across to the opposite knee. And I've got my left hand behind my back here. Start to roll through that shoulder just a couple of times. Get into any of that resistance that might be there. And slowly let it ease. Now let the shoulder relax and see if you can find a few rounds of cat-cow here. So it's going to be small, it's going to be a bit tight, but as you lift the chest and the chin and then curve the upper back and bow the head, just begin to feel any resistance slowly melting away. And inhaling as you lift through to center, immediately plant that left palm down to reach the right arm nice and high and find that little bob again. And this is really all in your underneath elbow, how it lengthens and bends. No part of a river stays completely still as it flows. So we don't want this arm to be a crutch. We want everything to flow in unison. Then circling the body and chest round and down, we're going to sweep the fingertips forwards and all the way out to come round and up into that twist. Rotating towards the right this time, left hand across you, right hand behind you, and circle through that shoulder. And letting that shoulder rest and finding your cat-cow flow. And I often think of this when we do movements like this, where there is a little bit of tightness, it feels a bit pokey, a little bit resistant. I often think about how pebbles aren't always smooth. They probably started as quite jagged rocks, but over time, the flow of the water has eroded any of that jaggedness away and created smoothness. And this is like the movement of the body. It can slowly erode away any feelings of deep resistance and really create space for an effortless flow. So lifting and coming all the way back to center. If you're cross-legged, just swap your feet around for good balance. Reaching the arms up to the sky, and as you exhale, bring those hands down in front of you and see if it's comfortable to stay on your fingertips. If not, just plant your palms down. We're going to scoot and lift, finding cat-cow once again, and really feeling into that spine. If there were a place in the body where our inner Saraswati would reside, I would bet that it would be the spine. Because we often think of the spine as being this really steady pole-like structure, but it's immensely fluid. So there's like this river of fluidity down the spine. And of course, the spine contains that main thoroughfare of wisdom that the nervous system passes from brain to body. So language, feeling, river flow, all residing here. Take those hands a little bit wider and start to shift your sway from side to side. Really let this come from the hips up to the head. So the rib cage moves over to each side. And then sort of dragging behind that rib cage sways the shoulders and then eventually the head. So your head kind of slowly trails behind the movement of the ribs. And then using your hands and keep that sway going as you rise all the way back to center. And then as you sway, just feel that little bit of extra freedom through your torso, certainly in comparison to just a few minutes ago. And then when you're ready, lean back into your hands, step your feet really wide and out ahead of you, and lift your toes up. We're going to start bringing that sense of flow down into the lower body. So window wipering those knees and feet across to each side. Really getting into the hips. I find when my hips are tight, that feeling of flow just does not happen, not from the head to the toes. So easing through those hips, big bends. And then when you're ready, sweep both feet round to the same side and come up into tabletop position, which is going to look a little different today. So instead of having your wrists underneath your shoulders, take your hands out so you've got a bit more of a slope. And if it's comfortable on the knees, tuck the toes under. We're going to bend through the elbows, find cow pose as you scoop the chest and belly down to rise forwards and up. And then hunch up and back into cat as you sweep the hips back to the heels. Finding that flow, bending to scoop, down, forwards and up. And then reversing the curve, up, back and down. One more time, just like that. And really feel like the ripples in a body of water. Flowing with the tide. Ebbing and flowing. And then see if you can reverse it. So as you shift and rise up, pressing into the hands, your spine curves to the ceiling, and then your belly scoops to the floor as you sit the hips back to the heels. That might feel a little alien, and that's okay, but just really feel into those curves moving in the opposite direction, like the tide has shifted. This time, bring your hands in closer so you can press into the mat and lift the knees up into your downward facing dog. And as we're thinking about flow today, with every inhale, lift both heels nice and high. And with every exhale, lower the heels and let them become nice and heavy. They're feeling that sway into the hands and back into the feet. Walking your hands all the way back towards the feet. Find that nice hanging dangle. Release the head. So find a nice little sway from side to side. Imagine you're still in that shallow body of water and you're creating ripples with your fingertips as you wrap your arms and sway your body. As we did before, keep that sway going as you rise all the way up to standing. And even when you're standing, keep it going. Just keep that lovely smooth sway through the body, gradually letting it steady and come back to center. Just recognizing that you are never 100% still. Coming up to the top of the mat, we're going to flow through Jala Namaskar. So normally we would do Surya Namaskar, which is of course sun salutations. But the sun, as you'll agree, has very different energy to water. The sun is very, sorry, down here I just get it, whoops. Whereas water kind of undulates. So while this sequence will feel familiar, there will be a different essence underneath. So having the feet underneath your body, lift and lengthen all the way up. We're going to circle the arms, connecting the palms. Then as you exhale, bend through the knees, sit the hips back, And imagine you're a blob of honey dripping off of a spoon, releasing all the way down. Then inhale, rise halfway, lengthen the spine forwards and up. Remember, these hands are purely decorational, and lower. Fingertips to the top corner edges of the mat. We're going to float the right leg up nice and high to the sky and open the heart. Gently lower that right foot all the way to the back of the mat. Lower the knee, relax the toes and rise into Anjaneyasana. All the same so far, but it's a different quality as we flow and transition. Tucking the back toes, lifting the knees, stepping into downward facing dog. Inhale. And flow through plank. We're not holding here, we lower through it, knees and toes relax. Thighs, pelvis, belly, chest and head come down. Squeezing that right foot in towards your right sit bone. You're going to push through your hands, lift, wrap and tap that right foot behind your back as you open through the chest and lift to the sky. Really open through the front of this thigh too. Rolling back to center, tuck the toes, ripple and rise up and back into downward facing dog. 2 breaths with a lift of the heels and a lower of the heels. And then inhaling, lift your right leg up to the sky behind you. You're going to hug that knee and step it underneath you. Don't fling it up to the top of the mat. We're waves again here. So rise, let the crest of a wave lifts and lengthens, and then ride that wave to the shore as you step that foot through and up. Last one, to the top of the mat, relaxing down and inhale, rise, circling the arms, connecting the palms, guide those hands back to heart center. Straight to the other side, inhale, circle and connect. Exhale, melt and soften. Whoa, feel that fluidity. Rising halfway, lift, lengthen. Headbutt the wall maybe. Fingertips to the top of the mat, left leg lifts, and again, spine and heart opens. Lower back through that left foot, lower the knee, relax the toes and rise. And think about all of these transitionary moments. How can you smooth everything out? Tucking, lifting, stepping back into downward facing dog, and inhale. And then flow forwards to plank and lower. So we never stop, we always keep moving, but it's smooth and slow. Left heel squeezes into the sit bones, lift, wrap and tap that toe behind you, and open the chest. Then rolling all the way back to center, tuck the toes, ripple and rise up and back into downward facing dog. The 2 long deep breaths. Lifting the heels with your inhale, lowering them so they're nice and heavy with your exhale. Inhale as you lift the left leg up to the sky. Remember waves, rise to the crest and ride that wave in. Don't step the foot all the way forwards. We're not flinging and flanging, we are waving. Keep going until you're at the top of the mat. And relax when you get there. Inhale, rise, circle the arms, connect the palms. And then bring the hands to heart center. So, there aren't many Saraswati stories. There's one really famous one, which I'd like to tell you. It's not very long either. So as you stand, bring one hand to your heart and one to your belly. Because Saraswati is linked with the arts, with language, with speech and poetry, she's also linked with flow state. You may know what flow state is, but if you don't, flow state is when you do something that is so ingrained within you. You've done it so many times, you know it off by heart, so you don't have to think about what you're doing. And it becomes this effortless presence. If you feel you've not experienced that before, I'm willing to bet that you have. If you drive, have you ever gotten to your location without being able to remember the journey because you've driven that way so many times and you've just gone, oh, I'm here. I know I got here, obviously. I can't remember any of the details of my drive. That's flow state, and I think we've all experienced it in that way before, but I want to see if we can bring it into our practice. Anyway, back to Saraswati. This demon goes up to Brahma. Brahma is the main creator god and the consort of Saraswati. And this demon says, look, I have been such a good boy lately. I deserve a gift. You need to give me one. And Brahma's like, okay, but this is a bit out of the blue. It's a bit weird. I'm just going to go and get Saraswati and she can, back me up, listen, and then we can have a little conversation about it, okay? So Saraswati comes in, she listens to what the demon has to say, and she goes, okay, fine. And she starts talking in all of these long, beautiful words in a really poetic way. She uses lots of rhyming words, lots of anagrams, and mixes letters up. And it said, you can take this physically or metaphorically, but it said that Saraswati danced on his tongue and created all of these tongue twisters and essentially twisted his tongue up. So when it came time for him to ask for his gift officially, he actually got his words muddled up. Instead of saying he wanted Indra Asan, which means the seat of a king, to be treated like a king, he asked for Nidra Asan, which essentially is a long nap. Think Sleeping Beauty. So instead of getting what he wanted, his tongue got all twisted and he asked for the exact opposite, essentially to be put into a really, really long nap. And that's the power of Saraswati. She gets into this flow state and we're just so caught up by it and we're so wondered by it. We're like, oh, it doesn't matter. We're going to see if we can do this with movement. Now, movement's very, very simple, but it's not the movement we're doing, it's the quality with which we're doing it. So we're going to take the feet a bit wider than shoulder distance and gently bend into the knees, just kind of bounce down into your knees. We're going to have the hands about hip height. I'm an orangutan, so they're more thigh height. Yours might be a bit higher, just around hip height. Palms facing the ceiling. Inhale, lengthen through the legs and bring the hands up to the chest. And then turn the palms and press down as you bend the knees. Inhaling, rise, lengthen the legs again. This time take the arms to the sky. And then open the arms wide to bring them to your side, soften into those knees, and that is it. So we're going to lengthen and lift to the heart, press down and bend to the earth. Inhale, rise, lift to the sky, open the arms wide, bring them to your side. Inhale, rise to the heart. Exhale, bend to the earth. Inhale, lift to the sky. Exhale, arms wide, back to the side. Close your eyes, keep going. And let your breathing dictate the speed of this movement. One more round. Stand it. the eyes closed. And the goal is to not know exactly how many rounds of that you did, how many breaths it took you. We don't get caught up in the minutiae of the details in flow state. We enjoy the presence of being in that state, the journey itself. We're going to close here with a standing meditation, and we're going to use the Jala Mudra, Jala water. So place your thumb tip on your little fingernails, like that. And then your other three fingers should extend nicely and quite comfortably. And this is Jala because the little finger is representative of water. So closing the eyes once again and feel the flow of breath around your heart. We use the word nadi in yoga, which means literally river, but also channel. And we have a channel from the heart that flows up into each shoulder, down through each arm and into each palm. And this is the flow of intention into action. So think about something that you intend to do with loving connection. Think about an action you wish to bring to fruition, a creation you wish to bring to life. It all starts from a heart's yearning that flows up into the arms and eventually down into the hands, where you can enact that intention. Thinking about molding clay, creating art or music, writing a letter or a poem, moving through the body, and even extending into general conversational day to day. When a loved one needs us, we feel that in our heart and we extend our hand out to them. And when we need that in return, we reach our hand out as if I need some help. So our hands enact our heart's desires, feeling that flow from your heart to your hands. Releasing the hold of that mudra. Let your hands be free. And as you inhale, circle the arms and connect the palms once again. And guide the hands to heart center, bowing ever so slightly. And bowing to the parts of you that are just like Saraswati. You may think she is a real goddess. I personally like to think she exists to remind all of us that we are creative. We are artistic expression in human form. And with that, I'm going to close our practice with the Saraswati mantra, Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. And that Aim doesn't mean I am, it's a different word. It's essentially a bow to Saraswati. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. Om Shanti. And you're ready to flow straight into the rest of your day.